You are not poor because of a lack of money. And that may sound strange at first, but the truth is money is a consequence, not the cause. According to Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men in history, what truly separates those who build wealth from those who stay in the same place is not how much they earn. It is what they understand about money. Because there are truths about money that most people never learn. And as long as you don't understand these truths, you will keep chasing without ever reaching. The first truth is simple but powerful. Money is not the goal. It is the result. The result of value. The result of skill. The result of decisions. Most people spend their lives trying to make money, but ignore what actually generates money. And that creates frustration, because you try to harvest without planning. Carnegie never focused directly on money. He focused on building something that created value. And money came as a consequence. Now think about this. Are you focused on making money, or on becoming someone who creates value? That answer changes everything. Because money follows value. Always. The second truth the wealthy understand. Money needs direction. If you don't control where it goes, it simply disappears. Most people live like this. Earn, spend, repeat. No strategy, no intention, no construction. And that creates an endless cycle. Carnegie saw money as a strategic resource. Every dollar that came in had a purpose. Investment, expansion, growth. And that makes money work for you. Now let me ask you, today, is your money working for you? Or are you working for it? Because that difference defines everything. Now comes the third truth. Money respects behavior. It does not stay where there is disorganization. It does not grow where there is impulsiveness. It does not remain where there is no control. And this explains why many people earn more and still stay broke. Because their behavior did not change. And money without structure is temporary. Carnegie did not trust money. He trusted the system that managed money. And that is a completely different level of thinking. Now the fourth truth. Wealth is not built by effort alone. It is built by intelligence. Most people believe they need to work more. But what truly changes the game is working better. With strategy. With vision. With leverage. Carnegie did not become rich just by working hard. He built systems, companies, structures that produced results at scale. And that completely changes your way of thinking. Because there is a limit to effort. But there is no limit to systems. Now, pay close attention. If your growth depends only on your time, it is limited. But when you create something that works without you, everything changes. This is one of the biggest differences between those who work and those who build wealth. Now the fifth truth. Money amplifies who you are. If you are disorganized, more money will increase chaos. If you are disciplined, more money will increase growth. Money does not fix behavior. It exposes behavior. And this is something very few people understand. That is why many people believe the problem is lack of money, when in reality, it is lack of structure. Carnegie understood that before growing financially, you must grow as a person. Now let's move to one of the most ignored truths. The problem is not how much you earn. It is how you think. A scarcity mindset creates small decisions. A growth mindset creates strategic decisions. If you believe money is rare, you play defense. If you understand money is a consequence, you play offense. Carnegie thought big, acted big, decided big, and that reflected in his results. Now let me be direct with you. If you keep thinking small, you will keep living small, no matter how much money comes in. Now here is a truth that changes everything. You don't become rich by accumulating money. You become rich by building assets. Most people work to earn. Few work to build. And that difference completely separates outcomes. Carnegie built assets, businesses, structures, sources of income, and that creates continuous growth, while those who rely only on active income are limited by their own effort. Now think about this. If you stop today, would money keep coming in, or would it stop with you? That answer reveals your level. Now let's move to another important truth. Wealth requires time, and this is something most people don't accept. They want fast results, immediate growth, rewards without process. But Carnegie took years to build what he built, and that requires strategic patience. It is not about waiting passively. It is about acting, even without immediate results, knowing you are building something greater. Now, perhaps the most uncomfortable truth of all. You are not where you want to be financially, because you have not yet become the person who can sustain that level. And this is not criticism. It is clarity, because when you become, the results come. Carnegie did not chase money. He became someone capable of generating it. And that changes everything, because the focus shifts from earning more to becoming better. And when that happens, money stops being a problem and becomes a consequence. Now the final question is simple. Are you trying to make money, or are you becoming someone that money is drawn to? Because in the end, money does not go to those who want it. It goes to those who are prepared. And that preparation begins in the way you think, in the way you decide, in the way you act, and most importantly, in the way you develop yourself every single day. Because wealth is not an event. It is a process. And that process begins the moment you understand. Money does not change your life. Who changes your life is who you become. Now let's go into a level that almost no one talks about. And that completely changes how you see money. Risk. Most people are afraid of risk, but they don't understand what real risk is. They believe risk is investing. That risk is starting something new. That risk is stepping out of their comfort zone. But Carnegie saw it differently. For him, the greatest risk was not evolving, was staying in the same pattern, was depending on a single source, was not learning, because that leaves you vulnerable. Now think about this. What is more risky? Trying something new and learning, or staying in the same place for the next 5 years? Most people choose immediate comfort without realizing the silent risk of the long term. And that is why they remain stuck. Carnegie did not avoid risk. He calculated risk, and that is completely different. He did not make impulsive decisions, but he also did not allow fear to paralyze him. He analyzed, he learned, and he acted with strategy. Now comes a concept that completely separates those who grow from those who stay in the same place. Leverage. Most people live through effort. They trade time for money, but that has a limit. You only have 24 hours. Carnegie understood that real wealth comes from leverage. People working with you. Systems working for you. Money generating more money. And that multiplies results. Now let me show you simply. If you work alone, you grow slowly. If you create systems, you grow at scale. And scale changes everything. Because you stop depending on your direct effort and start building something bigger than yourself. Now think about this. Today, are you operating at the level of effort or at the level of leverage? Because that answer defines your growth limit. Now let's move to another critical point. Investment. Most people see investing as something distant, complicated, risky, but Carnegie saw investing as essential, not optional. Because those who don't invest remain trapped in their own labor. And that limits everything. Investing is not just putting money into something. It is making money work. It is turning income into assets. It is building the future. Now, pay close attention. If you spend everything you earn, you always start from zero. If you invest part of what you earn, you build growth. And that accumulates. And accumulation is one of the most powerful forces that exist. Carnegie understood the power of time. He knew that small decisions repeated create massive results. Now comes a point that few people understand. You don't need to earn a lot to start. You need to start to earn a lot. Most people wait until there is something left over. But those who grow make it left over. And that is behavior. Now let's move to an even more advanced level. Decision. Average people take too long to decide. They overthink. They overanalyze. And many times, they don't act. Carnegie decided quickly and adjusted along the way because he understood that decision creates movement, and movement creates results. Indecision creates stagnation, and stagnation keeps everything the same. Now let me ask you, how many decisions are you delaying today? And how much is that costing you? Because the cost of indecision is invisible, but extremely high. Now let's talk about something that changes the entire game. Focus. Most people are scattered. They start many things. They finish few. And that prevents any real growth. Carnegie was extremely focused. He concentrated energy on a few things, but executed them deeply. And that generates results. Because depth beats quantity. Now think about this. Are you spreading your energy or concentrating it? Because scattered energy builds nothing solid. Now more strategic point. Time. Most people use time reactively. They deal with urgency. They put out fires. They follow the flow. Carnegie used time intentionally. He invested time in building, in growth, in decisions that created the future. Because time well used turns into results. Time poorly used turns into regret. Now let's close with one of the most important truths. You do not build wealth with isolated actions. You build it with a system of behavior, a way of thinking, a way of deciding, a way of acting, all aligned. And that creates consistency. And consistency creates growth. Now, perhaps the most important question of all is this. Are you just trying to make money? Or are you building a system that generates money? Because that answer defines your future. And maybe now you are beginning to understand something fundamental. Wealth is not about money. It is about strategy. It is about behavior. It is about identity. It is about building. And when all of this aligns, money stops being a goal and becomes an inevitable consequence. And that is exactly what Andrew Carnegie understood. And that is what separates those who simply work from those who build something that grows, even without them. Now the decision returns to you. Continue operating at a basic level, or begin to think, act, and build at a higher level. Because in the end, money does not respond to desire. It responds to the structure you build to receive it. Now let's go even deeper. Because there is a point that almost no one notices. And that defines who truly builds wealth in the long term. Emotional control. Most financial decisions are not rational. They are emotional. You buy on impulse. You avoid out of fear. You quit out of frustration. You freeze due to insecurity. And all of this directly affects your results. Carnegie understood that money requires emotional stability. Because markets fluctuate. Results take time. Mistakes happen. And if you react emotionally to every situation, you will never build consistency. Now think about this. How many decisions have you made based on the moment? And how many of those decisions moved you away from your goal? Because emotion without control becomes self-sabotage. Now comes a principle that changes everything. Separate emotion from decision. You can feel fear and still act. You can feel doubt and still continue. You can feel unmotivated and still execute. That is maturity, and that is what allows real growth. Carnegie did not eliminate emotions. He simply did not let them control his behavior. Now let's move to another highly strategic point. Intelligent patience. Most people do not fail due to lack of effort. They fail due to lack of time. They quit too early. They switch strategies too quickly. They abandon the process before it produces results. And that destroys any growth. Carnegie understood that everything has a maturation time. Businesses, investments, skills. Nothing grows instantly, but it grows consistently for those who remain. Now, pay close attention. You don't need to get everything right. You need to stay long enough. Because time rewards those who continue. Now an even more advanced point. Course correction. Average people see mistakes as failure. People who grow see mistakes as adjustment. Carnegie made mistakes, but he adjusted quickly. He learned. He corrected. And he continued. This reduces the time between error and success, and that accelerates growth. Now let me ask you, when you make a mistake, do you stop or adjust? Because that answer defines your speed of evolution. Now let's move to a point that clearly separates levels. Responsibility for results. Most people want credit when things go right, but blame something when things go wrong. That prevents growth, because you don't learn. Carnegie took full responsibility. If it worked, he improved it. If it didn't, he adjusted it. No excuses. No blame. That creates continuous learning. And continuous learning creates inevitable growth. Now a concept that completely changes how you see money. The infinite game. Most people play to win quickly, to fix the present, to satisfy the moment. But Carnegie played a long game. He thought in decades, in legacy, in continuous building. And that changes everything. Because your decisions stop being short-term and become strategic. Now think about this. Are you playing to win today? Or to build something that grows for years? Because that defines your choices. Now let's go even deeper. Invisible consistency. Most growth happens without applause, without recognition, without immediate results. It happens in silence, in repetition, in discipline when no one is watching. And most people cannot handle that. They want quick validation. They want visible results. And when they don't see it, they stop. Carnegie understood that the invisible builds the visible. And those who endure the process harvest the results. Now we reach a final point. That summarizes everything. Wealth is not about money. It is about who you become in the process of building it. Discipline, clarity, control, vision, execution. All of this is built. And when it is built, money comes and stays and grows. Now, perhaps the most important question of all is this. If you continue being exactly who you are today, will your financial life improve or repeat itself? Because the future is not unpredictable. It is a consequence of what you do today, a consequence of what you repeat today, a consequence of what you accept today. And maybe now it is clear. What separates those who build wealth from those who merely survive is not money. It is behavior. It is mindset. It is pattern. And all that is fully under your control. Now we have reached the final point, and perhaps the most important of all. Because after all of this, there is no lack of information. There is a lack of decision. Most people will hear all of this. They will agree. They will feel impacted. And they will not change anything. Not because they didn't understand, but because they didn't decide. Andrew Carnegie did not have access to more content, more videos, more information. What he had was something much rarer. Commitment. Commitment to growth. Commitment to change. Commitment to execution. And that is what separates those who evolve from those who remain the same. Now, pay close attention to this with absolute clarity. You don't need to do everything perfectly. You need to do things consistently. Because perfection paralyzes. But consistency builds. And that completely changes how you act. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You need to act in the moment you have, with what you have, in the way you can. But act. Now here's a shift that changes everything. You don't need more money to change your life. You need to change the way you operate, so that more money comes. That is the reversal. Most people wait to earn more, to then get organized, to then invest, to then grow. But those who grow get organized first, invest first, discipline themselves first. And that is why they grow. Now let me show this to you in a practical way. You don't become disciplined after you earn more. You earn more because you became disciplined. You don't learn to invest when there is money left over. You create money left over because you decided to invest. You don't build vision after results. You build results because you develop vision. That is the real logic. And that logic completely separates levels. Now there is one point you cannot ignore. Everything you do today is building your future, not in theory, but in practice. Every decision, every habit, every silent choice, everything is being accumulated. And that accumulation becomes results, sooner or later. Now perhaps the most direct truth of all is this. Your current life is perfectly aligned with your current patterns. Nothing is out of place. Nothing is unfair. It is aligned with how you think, with what you do, with what you repeat. And this is not criticism. It is an opportunity, because if it is aligned, it can be adjusted. Now here is the final turning point. You need to stop looking for external solutions and start building internal structure, discipline, clarity, control, consistency. That is what sustains growth, and no one can do that for you. Now before we finish, I want you to do something simple, but that can change everything. Choose one thing, one that you know you need to change, and start today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today. It could be organizing your money, eliminating a distraction, starting something you've been delaying, making a decision you've been avoiding. It doesn't have to be big. It has to be real, because that is how everything begins. Small actions, executed with consistency. Now remember this. You don't change your life with one big moment. You change your life with small patterns repeated every single day. Andrew Carnegie did not build wealth by luck. He built it through patterns. And now you understand. Money does not respond to desire. It responds to structure. It responds to behavior. It responds to consistency. And all that starts with you. Now the final question is unavoidable. Will you keep trying to make money? Or will you start becoming someone who builds wealth? Because in the end, it is not money that changes your life. It is who you become in the process of earning it. And that transformation starts now.